Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. But before we begin, a story from comments by a highly respected member of our community under the nickname Fun E Shorts. I hope I read the nickname right. This is my dad's story before he had me. The cast: Entitled Jerk, Dad, Witness, Cop 1, Cop 2. So Dad was with an air conditioning worker. He had a call at a building that was shaped as a U, and the front of the building was the ditch in the U-shaped build. As Dad drove in the front, there was a section that was blocked off by traffic cones, so he had to go the other way around. As Dad got to the other side, there was a gate, with the opening having a spiky chain across the ground. My dad got out of the van he was driving to move the chain. EJ and WT come out of the building on the other side of the chain. The conversation went like this. EJ: "What the hell are you doing?" Dad: "I'm just moving the chain so I could fix the air conditioner you had." EJ picks up Dad by shirt. EJ: "How about I beat your butt instead?" WT is recording all of this. My dad was a red belt in karate and got out of EJ's grip. Dad then pins EJ to the ground as WT calls the police. 2 officers arrive 5 minutes later and each talk to Dad and EJ. C1 and C2 came to my dad first. My dad tells them what happened and shows the cops the mark on my dad's neck from EJ. WT shows C1 and C2 the video that WT took during the incident. C1 and C2 talked to EJ. My dad didn't hear what they were saying, but Dad could tell that EJ was pissing C1 and C2 off. C1 and C2 come to my dad and ask if he would like to press charges. My dad says yes. My dad got $1,000 from EJ. And to this day, me and my dad joke about what happened. "I've come here to repair the conditioner and kick Karen's butt, but you're blocking my way to the conditioner." Thanks for sharing your story. And our next story. Be a jerk about fixing my car? Hope you and your manager enjoy unemployment. Okay, so for the story. In January 2018, my best friend, his girlfriend, and I all went out. We took my car, but I got drunk, so my best friend drove us home. As we were approaching a roundabout, a driver from a side street pulled out in front of us, then slammed on their brakes, causing my best friend to swerve and hit the concrete median with both drivers' side tires. We parked the car in a parking lot and Ubered home. The next day, I had my car towed to my personal mechanic shop. Insurance guy assesses the damage, and my mechanic gets to work. He does everything he thought it needed. Put it on the alignment rack and found out that the engine cradle had been bent in the impact and it needed a new one. He didn't have the capability to do this, so they sent my car to a different company. Let's just call it ABC Repair. ABC Repair outsourced the engine cradle replacements to D-Weed Shop, aka DS. Car goes, takes forever because the first cradle they got was bent, so they had to order another one from California. Dude ordered the wrong parts originally. Dude gets the cradle in on the day my rental car coverage expires. As a single dad, I needed my car. Also, this whole time, the manager of ABC Repair Shop was not keeping me up to date on any of this, was dodging my calls, and anytime I did get him, he was rude to me. So the guy busts rear to get it in that day, test drove, and returned it to ABC Repair right before closing time, where I was waiting to pick it up. DS gave it a clean bill of health and handed over the keys. Here's where the rude crap begins. So the minute I left ABC shop that night, there was something wrong with the car. Since I have a bit of auto mechanic experience, I assumed it was a wheel bearing. Next morning, I call my insurance adjuster who tells me to take it back to DS and see what's up. So I call him up and say, "Hey, it's the dude with the engine cradle job. I think there's something wrong with one of the bearings." "Yeah, I knew about that." So why did you give it a clean bill of health?" "I was being rushed to return it, so I just said it was fine. It wasn't critical, so what's the big deal?" Okay, well, this needs fixed. Are you sure you know exactly what's wrong?" 100%, right rear wheel bearing." Okay, I'll call the adjuster and get it approved for repair. I have no more rental coverage, but I'm going out of town this weekend and won't need my car Thursday through Sunday. I can drop it off then. Does that work?" "Sure, no problem. See you Thursday morning." So DS orders the bearing with insurance approval and all is well. I go in Thursday morning to drop off the car, and the conversation goes roughly as follows. "Hey there, here's the keys. Now, if it's not actually what you think it is, or there's more, please call me right away. I'll call the insurance adjuster and get it approved, since this is the only time I don't need my car for transporting my child. No worries. I'm positive it's what I think it is, but if not, I'll call. I head out of town. Have a great weekend. No call from DS. Monday morning comes around. I'm about to head to pick up the car when I get a phone call from my adjuster. He tells me he just got off the phone with DS and was informed that no work was done on my car all weekend. I was livid. I asked why. Insurance adjuster said he didn't know. Head down there and talk to the guy myself. So I did. I walk into the shop and dinged the bell. He walked into the office and said, "Can I help you?" As if he didn't know who I was. Following is the conversation. Me. Yeah, insurance guy tells me you didn't touch my car. What the hell happened? Well, it was the right front, not the right rear bearing like I thought, so I couldn't do it since the right front wasn't approved. But I asked you to call me if it wasn't what you thought it was, and you said you would. Why didn't you call? Well, who's paying for this, you or insurance? That doesn't matter. I asked you to call me so I could get it approved while I was out of town. Why didn't you call me? I don't have to call you. It wasn't the approved work. I didn't do it. End of story. Why didn't you call? I could have gotten it approved like I said before I left for out of town. DS turns around, grabs my keys off the counter, hands them to me and says, "Take your keys, take your car. I'm done dealing with you." I walk out, PO'd, and across the street to his manager's office and ask to talk to the manager. On vacation until Wednesday. I leave my number and ask the manager to call me. In the meantime, I get the car to the original mechanic who starts bearing repairs on all 4 tires, approved by insurance as a "we're sorry for DS shop experience." He noticed that DS used the wrong strut in my car when he replaced the engine cradle and didn't put the rivets back in the plastic wheel well liner, causing the tire to burn a hole through, which is insurance approved, replacing both with the correct parts. Manager finally calls me at 4:45 p.m. on Wednesday after being busy doing payroll all day. Me. So you know anything about why I'm calling you? DSM. No clue what's going on. I begin to explain what happened when I returned from out of town, then state that the strut was wrong and the liner was ruined. He interrupts me and says he couldn't have ruined the liner by replacing the cradle. Oh, so you do know who I am. What actually happened? I never mentioned engine cradle replacement. Well, I'll apologize for wasting your time. I don't know what else you want me to do. Sorry. And he hangs up on me. The revenge. Remember that trip out of town? Well, on my return trip, I was bumped off my original flight, then bumped from that flight to one that finally took me home. I get on the plane, find my seat, put in my headphones, and start to settle in. Now, mind you, I was out of town for a party, and I was wearing a themed onesie. A gentleman in a business suit sits down next to me. I'm naturally an outgoing person, so I strike up a conversation. "Hey there, headed to destination for business or pleasure?" He says business. I say, "What do you do?" He says, "I'm the regional vice president for ABC Repair Company." My eyes got huge. It was destiny. So I begin to tell him my current experience up to me leaving for out of town, the a-hole manager at his shop, to the DS jerk that we're subletting his business to. VP was taking notes on my entire story. I swear his jaw was on the tray table. He was furious. He gave me his personal cell and email and told me he'd be having a talk with the manager. He also had his company pay for 5 more days for a rental car since they ordered a used cradle and not a new one, which a-hole manager decided didn't even ask my adjuster or me, which wasted 5 days. The next afternoon, after I pick up my car and had that experience, I get a call from VP. He wanted to make sure my car was fixed and that he also found out there were more complaints about his manager who treated me poorly. The manager was hiding the complaints and they never reached corporate, so he was fired. I then tell him about my experience that morning with the guy not doing any work on my car while I was gone. That pissed him off too. He said he'd be in touch. After I talked to DSM on Wednesday, I called VP back and told him what had happened. He said, "Thank you for the information," and hung up. About a month later, I had a question for VP not related to any of this, so I called him up and learned that they stopped giving their work to DS Shop, and when the owner of DS found out why, he fired both DS Mechanic and DSM. So that's my story. Moral, don't be a D-bag, be honest, and you won't get bit by karma. And our last story. Coup d'etat at my old apartment building. A couple years back, I moved into this real exclusive apartment building in the Miami Beach area. I had no clue at the time my landlord was a dictator. After she took my deposit and we moved in, the problem started. She had all sorts of crazy rules like shirts on for men at the pool, no talking on cell phones in the hallway, no overnight visitors, and a whole list of crap she literally made up and applied whenever she wanted. I knew she was effed off in the head, and we generally tolerated it until one day she decided kids were not allowed to play in the courtyard. She started harassing my son on a regular basis, telling him he was not allowed to play in the courtyard. However, I had an ace up my sleeve. See, I took a real estate course a few years back, and I knew that discrimination against kids in any way, shape, or form was against federal law. Revenge time. I told my son to ignore her and play as much as he wants, as late as he wants. Granted, he did his homework and his room was clean. One day she had enough and snapped, even going so far as to scream at all the kids in the courtyard. She then knocked on every door who had a kid and informed them that playing in the courtyard by kids was not allowed. When she came to me, I simply asked her to hand it to me in writing. She did. Needless to say, I hired an attorney and won. Six-figure sum, of which 30% went to my son's trust in his name. The owner of the building stood by her side the entire time, and so rightfully the suit cost him the building. He was forced to sell the building. The new owner hired me as the building manager. I was the resident manager for over 2 years. Hey guys, thank you for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.